right, hello everybody. Thank you for coming here at this 8:30 final day of build session. We're really excited to be here and to be talking about accessibility. So my name is Ailsa Leen. I'm a senior design program manager on the Azure AI team, and I work on accessibility full-time. So I think about how do we make our developer platforms accessible for developers with disabilities who want to build with AI. And I also do things like this, where I talk about the impact that AI is having on the field of accessibility. And up here today with me, I'm very excited because we have Josh from VML. And Josh, I'd love to let you introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Josh Loebner, Global Head of Inclusive Design for VML, a WPP company. To visually describe myself, I have brown hair parted to one side, glasses, some whiskers, a floral shirt, and as you can see, a white cane. I'm blind and have low vision and use the cane to navigate. In my role at VML, we try to ensure that accessibility can be baked in within processes and also look to ways where accessibility can move towards innovation within the brands and customers that we engage with.
Thanks, Josh. And to visually describe myself, this is Ailsa again. I am a Chinese woman in her early 30s wearing a white shirt today, not as floral as Josh always is. So I'm going to just start us off with some definitions and talk about, at Microsoft, what do we mean when we talk about accessibility? So accessibility to us is really about making sure that everyone in the world, whether they have disabilities or do not, have access to the things that make up a fulfilling life. So at Microsoft and myself, I'm concerned with designing digital products and services, things like Microsoft Teams or our Azure AI developer tools, making sure that people who use those for work or pleasure are able to effectively use them. But accessibility also refers to our built environment, for example, like this conference center, or access to schools and cinemas and many of the things that make up a fulfilling life. Accessibility impacts more of us than you might think. So on the slide up here today, I have a stat that says accessibility affects over 1.3 billion people on this planet, and that's 1 in 6 is another stat that we like to share. At Microsoft, we also talk about how disability is a spectrum. So the stats above refer to permanent disabilities, so people like Josh, who is permanently blind in one eye and partially sighted in another. We also talk about people who have temporary disabilities. So to extend the vision example, someone with a temporary disability affecting vision might be someone who is experiencing a migraine, and so temporarily they'll find it difficult to see. We also, maybe many folks in the audience might have experienced a situational vision disability. For example, if you're outside trying to look at your phone on a very, very bright day, it can be situationally quite hard to see what's on the screen and read what's in front of you. And so, when we design our technologies, if we take into account people who have permanent, temporary, or situational disabilities, we're really thinking about millions and millions of people and developing experiences that are just a little bit more flexible and accommodating for all of us. So one example that we like to talk about is the curb cut. So that's a little ramp into the sidewalk or the pavement, as I refer to it in the UK, that just makes things a little bit easier. So they're designed for people who use wheelchairs. It's very important to have curb cuts for wheelchair users to allow them to safely navigate between the street and the sidewalk to cross in a safe manner. But of course, I'm sure many people in this room have benefited from curb cuts, whether you are temporarily disabled with crutches or a broken leg, or if you're just lugging around a heavy suitcase. These cuts in the sidewalk make it easier to get up and down and make life just that little bit more accommodating for all of us. So at Microsoft, we think about this when we design our digital products and experiences as well. It's crucial to make sure that the products we build are accessible for people with permanent disabilities, right? So we have features like live captions in Microsoft Teams. This is something that is incredibly important for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, who we're all in Teams meetings pretty much all day, every day, and to be able to understand what's being said is absolutely crucial to let people who are deaf and hard of hearing have careers and participate in meetings. But it's also a feature that's very useful for people without hearing disabilities. To be able to follow along the conversation. Perhaps you're distracted for a second and you want to check back what has been said, or you prefer to read content rather than listen to it to follow along and pay better attention. So we have a lot of features like this at Microsoft. And on this slide, I have many examples of AI-powered features, and we'll be going into a bit more detail of some of these later, where maybe the original impetus for the experience was to benefit a person with a permanent disability, whether it's from our users that we get feedback from or employees in Microsoft. But these are features that end up benefiting many, many more people because they make things that little bit easier for all of us to use. And Josh, what about you? I know that you're always kind of talking about the same things that I'm talking about at WPP. What's your approach to accessibility, and how do you see the benefits?
That's a great question. So when it comes to WPP, we are a creative transformation company. And when it comes to creative transformation, accessibility critically is a part of that. Hopefully, in most cases, central to ensure that as we move forward, progressing towards greater accessibility, inclusion, and welcoming as many people as possible, accessibility definitively needs to be a part of that. WPP truly is a North Star for accessibility within advertising and marketing. We have a storied history where we were one of the first agencies, if not the first, to establish the Global Head of Inclusive Design role, which was first helmed by my predecessor, Christina Mallon, who's now at Microsoft, charging ahead as well. WPP also is a partner when it comes to collaborations with accessibility, which truly is central, that we have individuals and groups and organizations and businesses such as Microsoft that we can partner with. And wonderfully, we're at Horizon 3 when it comes to accessibility. Our approach when working with our clients and internal teams is to recognize that we can be at any point along that path of progress towards accessibility and welcome people to ensure that we can navigate with them arm in arm towards something greater. Working first, potentially at a very foundational level when it comes to learning with Accessibility 101 that may be somebody who hasn't moved forward with accessibility within their role as a developer, programmer, copywriter, or producer internally, to get them excited to see where they can bring accessibility into their role and their skill set within their project process towards creative innovation. We collaborate with clients through workshops to get them excited to see what's going on within their industry, within their category, and others to showcase not only how accessibility can support to ensure that consumers and others who are end customers can engage, but also to welcome potentially greater workforces who may have individuals with disabilities or other accessibility needs that can be welcomed into their teams. Beyond that as well, as we move down the accessibility maturity model, there's the opportunity for innovation. And that's truly powerful because for so many of our clients, they want to differentiate. They want to be leaders and torchbearers within their category and beyond to showcase how what they're doing is not only evolutionary, but revolutionary. And truly, we are at a wonderful confluence of opportunities where accessibility and innovation are converging, specifically with AI.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I really love to hear what you're saying about how accessibility is a fuel for innovation, and I hope that some of the things that we'll be sharing with you in this session are a good example of that, including your own work, Josh. But the session was called Accessibility in the Era of Generative AI. You're probably here thinking, I already know what accessibility is, but how is the age of AI going to impact this? So there's two things that I think are really significant about this age of AI that we are now in and have been in for, I would say over a year or more. The first one is scale, right? So when we think about disability and how people can sometimes be excluded, a lot of the places where exclusion exists is what we would call a mismatch. And so by that I mean, if somebody has a hearing disability, but the content that is being presented is only expressed through sound, that's a mismatch, right? If that content was presented through text, the person would feel more included and be able to follow along and participate. So we now have fast and accurate multimodal AI that is really better than ever, and it has been improving in the last few years. So what I mean by that, I'm talking about things like speech-to-text AI, right? We have the ability to transcribe audio now. You can in fact see right above my head, there are live captions appearing that are making this presentation more accessible to people who have hearing disabilities. We have the same thing with vision and image AI now, right? We're able to generate rich and more interesting visual descriptions than have been capable with computer vision in the last few years. We're also able to generate natural voice experiences, right? For people who prefer not to read or struggle to read, we can easily opt in to hear natural voices instead, and that makes things that little bit more accessible and inclusive. So a picture on the slide I have is an example, which is USA Today, right? They generate many, many articles a day. And they wanted to make their articles a little bit more inclusive for people who prefer to listen, whether they're on the go and brushing their teeth and want to hear what the news is instead of read it on their phones, or they just, like I said, prefer to listen to content, and that's the method where information soaks in more. These are the kinds of things with AI now at scale we're able to do. For every article that USA Today has on their website, there's an option to listen to it, right? And accessibility is easier than ever to do as well, because with our models that we provide at Microsoft, so Azure text-to-speech in this case, it's as simple as an API call to bring in the voice models we've already built and just make your experience and your applications that little bit more inclusive for everyone. So that's scale, and I think that's an example that you'll be talking about in your implementation, Josh. The other one that's really, really a fundamental transformation for everyone, and I'm sure you're all aware of, is with the age of LLMs we have, natural language assistance is here for everyone. And I'm most excited about this part because this is a mainstream change, right? Like everyone here, hopefully you've all tried a Copilot, or you've at least heard a lot about Copilots in the past couple of days. Copilot is an assistive tool for everybody, regardless of disability, right? We're now able to talk to our computers more naturally and ask them to help us do the tasks that we might find more challenging or prefer not to do. Right? So, if you're a person who is dyslexic, for example, you can talk to Copilot and ask Copilot to summarize maybe a dense Wikipedia article, which is the example I have on this screen. If you're someone who finds it takes them a lot longer to type out an email, perhaps due to a mobility disability, or because you're just busy and don't have time to formulate all of your sentences, Copilot or LLMs are something that can help you generate and kind of create that content more easily. So what I'm really excited about here is how natural language assistance tools are becoming mainstream, and that's something that is accessible to people regardless of disability. And when we talk about accessibility, so much of accessibility is about personalization and adaptation. And thanks to natural language, that's a capability that's in reach of all of us, with the capability to ask and adapt and have Copilot to help us in the personal ways that we wish. So I'm going to quickly show a video that includes a number of different employees with disabilities at Microsoft talking about how Copilot benefits them.
Active opportunity to help people with disabilities like me. I'm going to show you some of my favorite features that help improve my productivity on the daily basis.
Jeremy Curry.
And I'll just go into Copilot and say, summarize this email.
Christina Mallon.
I'm able to really use my voice through the microphone and voice access that's built into Copilot. I say, tell me the changes in accessibility for the past month.
I'm going to launch Word.
Describe what you'd like to write, including notes or an outline, and Copilot can generate a draft to help you get started.
In this case, I'm going to ask it to write about the history of computer science.
History of computer science. Generate.
A draft.
One of the things that is challenging when you have dyslexia is writing. So to help with that, I will ask Copilot to write a draft email. I'm going to ask it to still keep my tone because I want it to sound like me, and I want it to be short, asking Mary to do a pre-read of the document.
Entering a prompt.
And it's now generating a template email, which is short and sweet, which is a brilliant productivity enhancement for me.
When I think about generative AI, I think about things that I've done in my 20-plus year career in accessibility that we've not been able to do before now. And some of these things are literally life-changing.
This process without Copilot usually takes an hour, but this took 3 minutes. It's important to give me the time back to work on the things that I love. And generative AI does that.
If you want to make AI more accessible and better for you, use it and provide feedback.
I'm excited about the possibility that it will help bridge the disability divide.
Microsoft.
Thanks, Arun. Well, something that I think, I kind of really want to point out from that video is, all those features that those folks in the video were talking about are just features that come with Copilot. They weren't necessarily things when the team built they thought would benefit the disability community in particular. But, really, I hope many of you are thinking about building some sort of chatbot, Copilot, or natural language experience in your own organizations. These are things that will benefit the disability community. They'll benefit people who are looking for more inclusive features, kind of out of the box. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you can get more feedback from folks in the community later as well. But I'd love to hand it over to Josh to give another example of how AI is driving some accessibility innovation at WPP.
Yeah, definitely. It is driving innovation, which is wonderful. I do want to take a quick step back when we talk about scaling and innovation to just say thank you to everybody who's here live and also joining remotely to listen and hopefully learn a few things from this conversation. And when it comes to scale, hopefully you can go beyond where we are now, hearing these points that we're sharing with you and take them and operationalize them in a way wherever you are. Because it truly is important to recognize that we're at a critical scale in sharing conversations, learning and innovating. Many of us who are in these roles can remember when it was very difficult to have conversations like this or this many people in a room or listening remotely. So thank you so much. When it comes to scale, particularly for organizations, companies, and brands that WPP collaborates with on a daily basis, we don't just connect with 1, 10, or 1,000 people. We connect with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people every day, every moment when it comes to advertising, marketing, and branding to create meaningful moments. And to be able to scale, those are things that we've been able to implement, but now through AI, we're able to truly create robust opportunities and engagements that haven't happened before. Now, particularly with accessibility, we want to ensure that we can bring that confluence of connectivity between scale, innovation, and accessibility to move forward collectively. And that's very important because amongst all of our millions of people we want to connect with, many of them, as Ailsa shared, have some type of disability, have some type of challenge when it comes to engaging communications. And through accessibility, we can create, hopefully, more moments that break down barriers. Accessibility, though, does have certain challenges when it comes to scale. There are different considerations from time commitments to be able to create accessibility if there's a lot of manual frameworks involved within the accessibility processes. There can be different financial considerations when it comes to different organizations and groups implementing accessibility, whether it's vendors outside of an advertising agency or brand or those within it. And so because of all of these dynamic variables, accessibility to an extent has had hurdles that have been challenging to overcome. But with the power of AI, we're able to see all of these problems and navigate through them within a way that allows us to scale wonderfully in ways that had only been dreamt about literally a few months ago. We are at an amazing time to be able to not only dream, but do, to activate and operationalize. And so one of those examples within WPP is operationalizing audio descriptions in a way that we can scale that accessibility. Audio descriptions, if you're not familiar, they're something I use personally as a blind individual when I engage with any type of media, if they're available. Audio descriptions, they are audio described tapestries or a sublime, multifaceted narrative of what's taking place within a video outside of the individual who's speaking, either as an actor that's on screen or a voiceover. And they create much more of a robust component so that I, as somebody who's interacting with that video, have an opportunity to recognize much more of what's taking place. Well, again, it was a bit challenging to be able to move that into bringing into advertisements, but what WPP has done is look to how AI can play a powerful role. And I will say this as well about scalability before we share the video. Scalability isn't just about scaling accessibility for consumers within the advertisements that they're engaging with. Scalability is also about the internal employees within WPP agencies and the brands that we collaborate to ensure that those employees with disabilities and others can be able to scale within their roles to their fullest potential. And as well, AI allows people who may be unfamiliar with accessibility within their role or skill set as producers or editors of advertising to be able to more easily operationalize this process that we're about to show, which is still in prototype mode, but we're hoping to scale it further into implementation to ensure that we can all be able to enjoy the commercials and videos in a way that we can embrace it and act on it.
Great, so I'll roll the video.
Hi, I'm Matt. I work for Casalaina, a WPP company. In this demo, we are exploring how GPT-4 with vision can enhance accessibility in advertising. We are working with Unilever on the Super Bowl ad, 𝗦𝗽𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. This is the start of our user flow. Next, we move to analyze. Before creating captions, we need to understand the video, the relevance to the audience, and the key brand and product callouts. We use GPT-4 with vision to understand storytelling, brand identity, and product representation. This information informs our model's view, which we refer back to later. We use vocal audio segmentation to break the video down into chunks, the chunks which we want to add the text-to-speech to. Once we have the segments, we generate highly detailed descriptions of what is happening in each of the video windows. Here we observe a comic book strip-style display of the video segments, with the rich descriptions below. These descriptions capture what is happening visually within the clip. It captures all of the accessibility, brand and product information that we want to reduce. Next, I'll show you a snippet of the audio described video for the 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀
Cheese. What am I going to make with this?
Fluffy cat observes.
Yeah.
Fridge open.
Hellman's.
Jar in fridge.
Holy, you can talk.
Our app also allows you to customize the final output using the best of Azure. We like this tech because it gives us full visual comprehension. It can read key information, written science, magazines, or call to actions, which impaired audiences might not be able to enjoy. I'll show you my favorite one now. The running theme of the ad is that 𝗦𝗽𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, and the cat and the cat has a humorous relationship with a celebrity, Pete Davidson. Here the system generates the caption, "Cat dumps Davidson" headline. So in this caption, we can demonstrate running jokes and messages and make callouts as required. This helps build a more inclusive experience for both audiences and brands. To close, GPT-4 with vision is a real leader in this space and is constantly giving us new ideas on how to reinvent what we do.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for telling us about that work that you're doing with WPP. And yeah,
thanks so much. Thanks.
So we have a number of demos still for you today, and they're going to get a little bit more interactive because that's Marco's specialty. So what you've seen so far is work that WPP has been doing with our vision technologies to generate audio descriptions. And we have a number of other examples of how different Azure AI technologies can be used in other accessibility ways. So I'd love to invite Marco up to the stage to take us through some of these.
Thank you very much. I'm Marco Casalaina. I am a Caucasian man wearing a blue blazer, a white shirt, blue jeans, and a bald, shiny head. And I'm VP Products of Azure AI at Microsoft. And the best part of my job is using this AI to make the world a more inclusive place for everyone. Now, Ailsa and I have a friend by the name of 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. And Martin has ALS. And he has not been able to use his voice for some years. Martin is also the founder and CEO of a company called 𝗬board. And 𝗬board is an assistive technology that allows people to regain their voice, including Martin. And so Martin's been able to send us this message here. And Martin, I hope you're watching right now. Here he is.
My name is 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, and I am one of the co-founders of 𝗬board. I can't speak well due to my disease, so I will use 𝗬board to talk. It is a great demonstration of what is the mission of the project. The story of 𝗬board is a story about helping people with disabilities, and that is also including me. To give you a quick reference, I have the same disease that affected to Stephen Hawking, but the difference is that I am more intelligent than him. I think that communication is the most important ability for humans. Language shapes your mind. When I started to lose my ability to speak, I started to think differently. In 2017, I co-founded an open source project on GitHub. Today, after 7 years, we have 55,000 users around the world. We did pilots in several countries, and we have worked with Microsoft, UNICEF, and many country governments to provide an open, multi-language, browser-based, and multi-platform solution. We are using artificial intelligence to offer new features to get a more fluid speech. For example, last year we introduced a new Azure OpenAI-powered feature to assist users in constructing sentences using pictograms. By analyzing user inputs and the context of their message, the AI suggests a phrase, according to pictograms and word combinations. To build this enhancement, we use Azure OpenAI API. It was really simple and straightforward to implement. We were able to pilot this with patients and professionals quickly after the initial deployment. Azure services have enabled us to create custom voices for the application users. This is particularly helpful for people who have lost their voice, just like me. We created a model of my voice using just a few audio samples. It only took less than 3 minutes of audio recordings to reconstruct something that I thought I had lost forever. It is a great example of how AI can positively impact people's lives. I am originally from Argentina, so I speak Spanish. You may have guessed that from the image behind me. I'd like to share with you how my voice sounds and how it is integrated into 𝗬𝗏board.
Hola, esta es mi voz.
Just to let you know, my mother cried when listened to this voice. It was 3 years she had no listen my voice. Okay, that would be all I got. Please feel free to contact us, or you can join us on GitHub. We are running an exciting project using Azure AI features. Thank you once again for your time.
And thank you, Martin. Now, I have 𝗬𝗏board on my screen also. So Martin, in this video, he was showing not just himself, but also the 𝗬𝗏board that he himself was using to make that speech that he just made. So here I have it on my computer, and it's able to speak in my voice. On the screen are a whole bunch of pictograms. And when I touch these pictograms, you will hear my voice.
Hello. Want. Show. You.
Now, as I touch them,
my voice.
It gives me this feedback.
𝗬𝗏board. Think. Cool. Thank you.
So you hear these words, but the real genius of what 𝗬𝗏board has done is that they wired this up with Azure OpenAI. So, of course, I can just use the pictograms themselves to speak what I'm trying to say, but if I would like to be able to speak more fluidly, the way that Martin did, well, at the bottom here, in a blue bar, there is the Azure OpenAI enhanced text. And so when I press this, it will say,
hello, I'd like to show you my voice on 𝗬𝗏board. I think it's cool. Thank you.
So that is amazing. I think that's a wonderful way to give people who are unable to use their voices a voice. That's 𝗬𝗏board. So thank you for that, Martin. Now we have a number of other assistive technologies here. And let's see if I get my mouse back. So now, for those who have hearing disabilities, above me, there are these captions going on the stage. And many of you probably use Microsoft Teams, and you may know that in Microsoft Teams, it's pretty easy to turn on captions. In fact, I myself turn them on all the time. Even though I don't have a hearing disability, I use it to reduce my cognitive load. If I miss a word or a sentence, I just look at the captions, and there they are. But the other day, I was on a customer meeting using a different meeting provider. I will not name the name of this other meeting provider, but it didn't support captions. And that was troubling for me. Fortunately, here in Windows, let me minimize this screen here. Oh, get out of the way. All right, so here in Windows now, in Windows 11, we now have live captions. And so I am clicking into the Windows button here, and I'm opening up the live captions. And I'm going to turn this on to take the microphone input so you can see it work. And so now, as I'm speaking, you can see that it is, in fact, captioning me. And this will work for, as I said, microphone input, but it also works for any application that you might be using in Windows. If you're watching a video, if you're on a meeting, or any other thing that has audio, this will caption that all locally on your computer. This feature was actually added by a member of our product management team, 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗸𝗀𝗀𝗏, who herself has a hearing disability. And so she uses this herself to help her understand the world. And I think it's a wonderful addition to Windows. Now, for those with visual disabilities, we have an application called Seeing AI. Seeing AI is an application that works on iPhone and on Android. And you can use it for all kinds of things because it can see the world and speak what it sees. One of the challenges we certainly have here in the US is that all of our currency is the same size and shape. So you can't feel the currency and figure out what it is, but Seeing AI can see it. But actually, it can do much more than that. So let me roll this video here of Seeing AI in action on my own phone.
$20. $1.
So here I pointed at a menu.
Processing.
and it reads the menu. Now, it could read the entire menu, but now Seeing AI has the ability, you can actually ask it questions.
Is there anything like pasta with clams on this menu?
So the audio didn't come out there, but I said, is there anything like pasta with clams on this menu?
Yes, the menu includes linguine al vongole, which features fresh manila clams, chilies, garlic, parsley, primavera, and olive oil. This dish is a pasta with clams option available on the menu.
So my daughter loves pasta with clams. Anyway, and so what you can do is you can point Seeing AI at a document, and while, yes, it can read the entire document, for that menu, which actually is a real menu from Carmine's over in Bellevue, Washington, that's quite a long menu, and that would take a while for it to read. So instead, you can just ask questions like this, like pasta with clams, is there anything good here for vegans? And those kinds of things, and it can understand the menu, and it has this understanding of the world, because underneath the scenes, it's using GPT-4 with vision. Now, another function that we have here for people with visual disabilities is the read aloud function in Microsoft Edge. In Microsoft Edge, on any page, at the top here in the URL bar, you will find the read aloud button. You can also activate that with a hotkey that is Control-Shift-U. And when I press this button,
Microsoft and G42 announced $1 billion comprehensive digital ecosystem initiative for Kenya.
It will begin reading the page. And so while I don't have a visual disability, I do in fact use this just the way that you said, Ailsa. I actually use this while I'm brushing my teeth to read the news, to read documents and things like that. It really is quite handy.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yeah, I think we just have one slide. Oh yeah, go back to one. Thank you, Martine. We had some demos for you. Yeah, so everything that Marco just demonstrated, right? These are, most of them were features that we offer at Microsoft to our customers. These are all things that that you can, as developers, easily integrate into your own apps and experiences. And in fact, that is our hope with running this session, is that you can see, through some demos we're about to show, just how easy that is. So if any of you have been at some of our other Azure AI sessions at Build this week, you're probably aware that we have a product called Azure AI Studio that has now become recently generally available. Now, Azure AI Studio is a great place to explore all of the different things that we offer on the Azure AI team. So it's our sort of one-stop shop where you can browse different AI models that are available and look at other Azure AI capabilities. So we're going to show you a couple of things in Azure AI Studio or some of our other Studio products that show just how easy it is to take our Azure AI services, try out how good they are, and then bring that into your own code in your applications. So I'm passing it over to you again, Marco.
All right. So now I am in Azure AI Studio on my screen here. And if you think about how did Martin and his company build Seaboard? How did they make those voices work? Well, we have this extensive voice gallery that you can find here in AI Studio. So there are, I don't even know how many voices are in here. There are a ton of them. And they speak many different languages. In fact, we have recently introduced these multilingual voices. And these multilingual voices, one single voice can speak as many as 90 different languages, like this Ava multilingual voice right here, can speak 90 different languages just with that one single voice. Now, if we want to hear it in action, I'll go over to, now this is the Speech Studio. So this one feature is not yet in AI Studio, it's coming soon. This is the audio content creation tool. And in this tool, I'm going to use both my own voice and the Ava voice. Let's hear them in action.
I've trained custom neural voice to speak in my own voice. That's how I got Seaboard to speak as me.
We have many other standard voices you can use, many of which speak as many as 90 different languages. Yo puedo hablar en español también.
So I could just seamlessly switch her between languages, and it works. Well, I refer to her as if she was a person. She is nothing but a voice. Nonetheless, that is super useful for tools like Seaboard, and you can use this also to add this type of accessibility to your own applications. Now, how does Seeing AI work? Well, here's that menu again. So this is the menu that I talked about that I got from Carmine's over in Bellevue a few weeks ago. And behind the scenes, so now I'm back in AI Studio, and I am looking at the chat playground. And in this chat playground, I actually have the brand new model, GPT-4o. And GPT-4o is a multimodal model. It can take in both text and images, and soon it'll be able to do speech as well. Now, in this case, I have given it the picture of this menu. And I've given it a question as well. I said, is there anything good for vegans? And below that, you can see the response here that it gives me. It totally knows what's good for vegans, and it gives me the bruschetta trio and the spinaci soffritti and the panzanella con fagioli, which is some kind of a bean soup or something. Anyway, so it gives me all of these things because, yes, it knows what vegans are. It knows what would be good for vegans. And it even says things like, on the ensalada de Maria, it says, confirm if the house vinaigrette is vegan. So, you know, it's even giving me helpful tips to ensure that what I'm getting is a vegan meal. And so this is really what's underneath the scenes of Seeing AI. When I asked that question in Seeing AI, this is actually what it did. And you can do this also in your own applications.
Yeah, and the nice thing that you can kind of see on the screen from the AI Studio demos is there's always a View Code button. So, you know, for some of you developers, maybe you explore in these playgrounds, but then you want to get to code straight away. These are very easy to move into your own applications, right?
That's right. And here I am indeed showing the View Code button on the screen where you get sample code in various different languages like C# and Python and just curl if you want to hit the REST API on how you can integrate this into your app.
Great. Well, thanks, Marco. So just to wrap us up for today, you know, you've seen many, many different examples from us, right, of accessibility tools within Microsoft, accessibility tools from our partners, and hopefully you have an idea of how you can go and explore and bring these into your own applications. So here we're kind of a summary slide of some of the examples we showed today, giving examples of where what disability groups can be benefited from these technologies, and also some of the customers that have adopted these for themselves. So I'll just pause in case people want to take a picture of that slide. But something that we want to make sure that you all think about while you're adding, you know, we're really excited to add AI and innovation into these applications, but it's also important that the developer foundations when you build your apps are accessible. And at Microsoft, we offer a number of different tools to help folks do that. So in Visual Studio, there's a feature called the Integrated Accessibility Checker that will scan for common accessibility issues as you're coding and provide feedback, kind of like a spell checker, but for accessibility. We also have a great tool, and I use this one almost every day at work, called Accessibility Insights, and that's an automated tool that, again, helps you find accessibility issues in your products. So it's as easy for web products as a little browser extension that you can run and check if you have accessibility issues in your code and in your applications, and it gives you feedback on how to resolve them. Now, the most, and to sum up a little bit again, all of the tools that we showed in Azure AI Studio is also accessible and inclusive for all developers. And that's something that's really important to us on the Azure AI team. If you think about all of the examples of accessibility innovation we've been showing, so many of them came from the disability community, right? We have product managers on our team that are with hearing disabilities, suggesting the live captions features. Saqib Sheikh is the founder of Seeing AI. He's blind himself. You know, if we don't provide people and developers with disabilities with the tools to build solutions in AI and kind of solve problems that they experience with their lived experience, you know, we're not going to see, you know, the kind of real deep informed accessibility innovation that we want to see. So everything you've seen in Azure AI Studio is accessible, right? We have full screen reader, assistive technology support. We've made sure to include a dark mode, which, you know, not developers of all forms and all disabilities enjoy dark mode, is what we've heard. And of course, you can choose to work in UI or in code, whatever is your preference. So that's kind of our philosophy, and that's really important to us because of nothing about us without us. And you know, we couldn't do a talk about accessibility at Microsoft without including this slide. This is really important. You know, I think everyone here hopefully can leave this session with the knowledge that bringing some accessibility innovation into your products is much easier than you think, right? We have all these out-the-box APIs, we have models that can help provide captioning, rich voice experiences, and if you do this, it's something that we want everyone to think about and bring into their apps, but make sure that you include the disability community when you build these solutions, right? And that can be, starting from the beginning, like WPP did with Josh, involve employees with disabilities in the core team, giving you feedback or driving those solutions as you work. It can also be working with employee resource groups. That's something we do a lot at Microsoft, and in fact, we actually have 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀 as a blind developer at Microsoft who's in the audience with us here today. He was very foundational in shaping Azure AI Studio, as he's a developer himself, and gave us a lot of feedback on how to make the playground accessible. There's also customer feedback channels. More of your customers probably have disabilities than you think. Are you getting feedback already on how your experiences can be made more accessible? And if you don't have feedback yet, maybe that's because there's some barrier that's preventing you from receiving this feedback, or from customers with disabilities using your products. There are always external advocacy groups as well who are more than happy to give you feedback too. So that's kind of my final slide, I think. Let's see. It's easier than ever to bring accessibility into your apps and experiences, but please include the disability community in those solutions. But don't be daunted by this. There's many places that you can go for feedback and help. And I, for one, am always happy to answer questions about this and kind of talk more, especially when it comes to the things that we can do with AI.
Yeah. Now, speaking of which, Ronak tells me that we do have a couple of questions that have rolled in on the Pubble.
Perfect. We have some time.
Can you put them on the screen here, Ronak? I don't actually know which screen that would be. I don't know how that works, actually.
We have a microphone here. Ronak, would you like
to? We do, yeah. Ronak, maybe you can read off one of the questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Ronak, our crack marketer over here.
I don't know how to turn that on.
All right. Some AI Copilot features are fee-based. Are there any AI tools that are essential for accessibility that don't have a free option? Or does Microsoft offer these features without cost to anyone with an accessibility need, whether temporary or sustained?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not exactly sure of the Copilot pricing plan with regards to employees or folks with disabilities. I do know that Bing Chat is a great option, that it has all of the benefits that we've kind of been talking about with Copilot. That's available for free. So if you go to, it's bing.com/chat, right? That's another place where images can be described, so very similar to the Seeing AI example. You can ask Bing Chat, or maybe it's even called Microsoft Copilot.
You can actually go to copilot.microsoft.com. That takes you also to Bing Chat if you don't have the paid Copilot plan.
Right, and so without maybe some of the enterprise offerings there, it's pretty much all of the same capabilities that we think benefit the disability community.
But what is free and what we showed today, the live captions in Windows, that's included in Windows.
Seeing AI, that's free.
Seeing AI is free. The read aloud function in Edge is free. So we do have a number of features that are indeed for free that you can use for the purposes of accessibility.
All right, so that question was from Rich Magnuson. This next one is from Selva Middleton, and this is an interesting question. She asks, has anyone seen challenges with data taken out of context when it is interpreted or translated for this sensitive audience?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Any thoughts on that one, Mark?
I don't know that I have seen that myself. Actually, I would ask Josh. Josh, you still got a microphone on.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm not sure I can answer it. I'm not sure I can answer that one either, but it's one to explore.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, I know we do a lot of work, and I'm not the best person to speak about it, but Microsoft Copilot and all of the tools that we offer, we've done an awful lot of work in the meta prompt for Copilot to think about disability representation and make sure, obviously our Copilots are not saying anything harmful to any community that might be using them, and we do a lot of different red teaming, providing additional data on appropriate inclusive language. That's an example where there is a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of data that these Copilot experiences might be taking from the general training corpus that might not always be inclusive, but on top of that, with our meta prompting, we can make sure that disability is handled appropriately.
All right, lightning round, Ronak. We got 1 minute left. What else you got? You got any more questions on there?
One more question.
All right.
And I saw a couple of more questions along the same lines.
All right.
This is Catherine. She's asking, wow, that will make life easier in some ways, but is it safe in the long run? Meaning, how safe is our personal data?
Oh, I was going to let you answer that one, Marco.
Our
data
all
is
right.
protected, isn't
Thank
it?
you very much. How safe is your personal data? So, yeah, the truth is, when you're using Copilot, certainly when you're using the things that are on device, like read aloud, like live captions, that data stays on that device. It doesn't leave that device. It doesn't go to the cloud, none of that stuff. When you are using our cloud services in Azure, that data is also yours. So if you, as a business, for example, when you're using Azure AI, any data going in or out of that is your data. We can't see it. We can't touch it. We don't train models with it. That is yours. And so when it comes to the data, that is one of our key tenets is trust, that your data is secure. And with that, we're out of time.
Great. Well, we have an AI for Accessibility booth at the Expert Meetup on the 5th floor. If you're interested in talking about some of this some more and seeing some more demos, please stop by. And yeah, go grab any of us if you see us in the conference, and I'm sure we'll be happy to talk more about AI and accessibility.
All right.
So thank you.
Thank you all. And thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you so much, Josh.
Have a great build.